Very good day to all you patriots out there. Now, with the war for independence drawing to a happy conclusion, I find myself reminiscing on the small part that I myself played in this great struggle. Now, I have endeavoured even to put down some of my memories upon paper, both for my own remembrance, as well as the information of His Majesty King Louis XVI, monarch of France, who's been quite instrumental in the war effort for freedom here in the New Republic. So, I suppose I shall present to you, as I think you may perhaps be interested in hearing a bit about my own memoir right here. Now, I shall, of course, start at the beginning. At the beginning of the war, during the year 1775, I was charged with fitting out the small squadron which Congress had placed under the command of Mr. Hopkins, commander of the American Navy, and I hoisted with my own hands, on board the Alfred, flagship of the Commander-in-Chief, the American flag, then unfurled for the first time. At the same time, I told Mr. Hughes, a member of Congress and my special friend, of a project that afterward was fully planned by the two of us. The goal of this project was to seize the island of St. Helena, and for that purpose to dispatch the fleet against this island, which was very important for America to possess, because the vessels of the British East India Company would not fail to drop anchor at that spot on their homeward trip, and in this manner they would inevitably fall into American hands. Because Congress had then proposed to retain 2/3 of the prizes for itself, it would thus have acquired the means to carry on the war for many years. But an event of a more pressing nature prevented this project from being executed. The depredations and cruelties that the governor, Lord Dunmore, was then inflicting in Virginia determined the Congress to send the squadron against him. Mr. Hopkins displayed neither zeal nor intelligence on this occasion. He lost so much time that his squadron found itself imprisoned by ice in the Delaware. After a 2-month delay, the squadron finally was freed and set sail for and seized New Providence, the principal place in the Bahama Islands. There we found a large quantity of artillery, mortars, and other implements of war, of which America was in great want. All this material was embarked, and the governor and officers were taken prisoner, and all were brought to America. During this expedition, I had the good fortune to render myself very useful to Mr. Hopkins, who was little acquainted with military operations. It was I who developed the plan that was adopted when the squadron came in sight of New Providence, where I took charge of sailing the squadron into the moorage from which it executed our enterprise. During our return from New Providence, Mr. Hopkins encountered and captured a small bomb brig and a small armed tender, both ships of war and part of the English Navy. These ships were taken without resistance. Shortly after, he encountered an English frigate, the Glasgow, of 24 guns, near Rhode Island. But although he had the advantage of superior power and a favourable wind, he allowed her to escape after suffering many men killed and wounded aboard the Alfred and the Cabot. The squadron with its prizes entered the port of New London in Connecticut, and Mr. Hopkins, upon receiving the news that the English frigates had been driven from Newport, took advantage of the darkness of the night to proceed to Rhode Island. A council of war having dismissed the captain of the Providence, one of the ships in the squadron, Mr. Hopkins gave me written orders to take command of her and to escort some troops that were going from Rhode Island to New York to serve under the orders of General Washington. I soon completed this mission, and having refitted my ship for duty within a few days, I was ordered to escort from Rhode Island a heavy artillery train destined for the defense of New York. I then experienced great difficulty from 2 enemy frigates that were charged with preventing communications between the two places. I had 2 separate engagements with one of them, the Cerberus, of 32 guns. The first to protect my convoy, and the second to shelter a vessel at Sangamon, richly laden with munitions and stores for Congress. when I received orders to return to Boston to provide an escort for a number of public ships headed for Philadelphia. While executing this commission, I had several encounters with warships destined for New York under the command of Lord Howe. However, I was able to preserve my convoy, and I arrived in the Delaware on August 1st, 1776. On the 8th of the same month, the President of Congress personally presented a commission to me as captain in the US Navy. It was the first that the Congress had granted since the Declaration of Independence on the preceding 4th of July. Congress had ordered the construction of 13 frigates, but because none of them was ready, I was ordered to put to sea alone and to engage the enemy in the manner I judged most favourable to the interest of the United States. The Providence was a lightly armed ship carrying only 70 men and 12 small cannon. Well, I do think that's about enough for one day. Now, I should very much like to have you return and we can continue reading from my personal memoir. I do believe in the near future we encounter a frigate by the name of Solar Bay, but I am of course getting ahead of myself. I do thank you very much for joining me, and fare thee well for now.